Hi everyone, welcome to Noodle Journey. Today's review is our very first Vietnamese pho. This is Mama's Phở Bò beef flavor. I wanted to pause the Korean noodle flood to showcase a type of noodle dish we haven't seen yet on this channel, and yes, it's taken us almost 70 episodes to get here. If you're a total noodle novice and are unfamiliar with pho, and yes, for you English speakers, it's not called pho bo with a long O, like you might think. Phở Bò is a Vietnamese noodle dish made with rice noodles, bone broth, proteins of your choice, and a medley of fresh toppings and herbs that you add to your taste. Those toppings usually include bean sprouts, green onion, Thai basil, chili pepper, sriracha sauce, and my mortal enemy, cilantro. And the bone broth is packed with all kinds of spices and flavors too. It's a real treat. This particular kind, Phở Bò, is made with beef, while its counterpart, Phở Ga, which I have right here, is made with chicken. And yes, this will be the next video review. This is a nice sized bowl, and it's cheaper than you would expect. I got this at Walmart for $1.14 a few months back, and it has risen a little bit since then, but you should be able to find this there or in Asian grocery stores for $2 or less, or on Amazon for a typical third-party seller gouge if you're desperate. This appears to be available some places in a pack form as well, although I don't know if the ingredients are the same or not. So let's dive into this. Apparently instant pho is a salty experience because this modest bowl is loaded at 1,960 milligrams, which is 85% of your daily allowance. That's the main reason I'm not reviewing both varieties at the same time, because this is my lunch today and more than one of these is far too much sodium in one shot. The chicken one is even higher sodium than this. So inside we've got these foldable forks. Have any of you actually used one of these? Like, I appreciate the effort, especially if you're stuck somewhere without silverware, but really, these things couldn't be trusted to lift a feather, let alone a fork full of noodles. They're so damn flimsy. Anyway, here's the rice noodles. A seasoning packet. And a seasoning oil. The ingredients on the package don't really specify what is what, so between the two of these, you have a flavor combination of pho spices, soy sauce, onion, artificial beef flavoring, and fish sauce, with dried carrot, green onion, and textured soy protein to mimic beef. What's really interesting to me, since this obviously isn't packing the huge variety of garnishes you would get at a pho restaurant, is that somewhere in the seasoning or oil there is both artificial basil and artificial coriander leaf, aka cilantro, flavoring. I don't believe I've ever had artificial cilantro flavoring, and so I'm really wondering if this will set off the alarm on my cilantro gene or not. Also, just a warning, these are rice noodles, but this is not a gluten-free product because there is wheat in here somewhere according to the package. And that fish sauce is real fish sauce, so this is not vegetarian either, although the beef is artificial. This is a steeping bowl and should not be microwaved, so we're going to put both packets into the bowl, add boiling water to the fill line, cover the lid, and let this sit for 4 minutes, and then stir it up. So let's do that. All right, I'll go steep this and be right back. Okay, here we are. Let's just give it a quick stir. Make sure the broth is all dissolved, the oil is mixed in. The smell of pho broth was apparent right from the moment that I opened the powder, and all cooked up like this smells reasonably okay. I'll talk about pho spices in a little bit, since I wasn't sure earlier how well they would be replicated here, and I wanted to see what I could taste. So for now, let me take a few bites and see how this all came together. Cool. These rice noodles are great. I'm sorry to say to all of you gluten-free folks who were hoping this bowl was gluten-free, but these are probably the best rice noodles I've had in an instant product so far. They're not really stuck together. They're chewy and just the right thickness to make me a big fan. These aren't too far off from a flat noodle option you might see at your local Vietnamese restaurant, although lots of times you'll get the thinner vermicelli style noodle depending on your restaurant. Anyway, these are really impressive. I know some folks aren't fans of rice noodles in general, so I can't say if these are necessarily going to make you a convert, but I like them a lot. 9 out of 10 for the noodles. And now spiciness. I was prepared to tell you that the spices that make up pho broth might seem minimally spicy to people with delicate palates, but what I didn't know is that despite not being singled out on the package, I did taste some chili pepper in here. It's not dramatically spicy, but clearly Mama intended for this to be flavored as if you had added some typical garnishes. And like I said earlier, chili pepper or sriracha is a typical garnish for pho. But it is really just a kiss of spiciness and nothing that's lingering on my tongue. And so I think this only warrants a 1.5 out of 10 on the spiciness scale. This is mild enough that only the most spice-averse among you would hate this. So let's talk about the flavor of this versus restaurant quality pho broth. If you already know what pho broth tastes like, this is more for the uninitiated and you can skip ahead a little bit. If you're a pho novice, let me explain what I've tasted in my own experience where I live and what I researched online, and someone can correct me in the comments if I got anything wrong. Typically, if you've got a local pho restaurant, they're probably making their broth with some spice combination of star anise, cinnamon, cloves, fennel seed, coriander seed, rock sugar, and cardamom. Or if they're cheating, they're just using plain old Chinese 5-spice powder and calling it a day. And from what I've gathered, that's a shortcut, but it's not necessarily correct or authentic. So anyway, those spices make a flavor that's a combination of sweet, savory, and pungent. And then on top of that, it has fish sauce to give it some umami, charred onions and ginger in the bone stock, and of course, salt. Some of those spices might turn some people off, but it comes together in glorious harmony to make one of the most interesting broths you've ever tasted. I love pho, if that was not obvious. Now, what Mama has done here largely recreates that in a bowl form. It is not perfect. My super tasting is noticing that this is much more anise and cinnamon forward than I have had in restaurants, and it is also much saltier than what you might find in a restaurant. The artificial beef flavor will never trick you into thinking this is real bone broth, but it's fine as far as artificial beef flavor goes. There's some really good onion flavor here behind the main spices, but I don't think that these green onions or little chunks of carrot here are adding anything worthwhile. I don't think I've ever even had carrots in a restaurant pho. And then the couple bites of this soy protein that I got really do make it seem like you're getting little chunks of beef, which I like. I personally enjoy an oily consistency for my pho broth, and so the use of a seasoning oil here rather than just a powder packet is nice. As for the artificial basil and cilantro additives, basil and anise both have that kind of licorice flavor, and so it's really hard to distinguish them in here. And since I honestly don't know what cilantro tastes like when the soapy part is taken away, I can't say that I really taste it in here, although bonus for those of us who have the cilantro gene, whatever they're using in here doesn't really taste soapy to me, so that's fine. So I have to give this an overall rating. The noodles are way better than I expected, and the broth is salty but is otherwise decent for what it is. But the attempt to simulate garnishes in the flavor falls a little short for me. While this isn't a replica of a good restaurant broth, it is still objectively tasty. And the price is unbeatable. If you've got a craving for pho and aren't a snob about it, I think this would scratch that itch. If you've never had pho and want to know what it's like, this is a perfect way to get a rough idea of it without paying restaurant prices. So taking into account all of those factors, I think this warrants a 7.5 out of 10 overall. So yeah, this is pretty good. I would even go so far as to say that if you have some bean sprouts or green onion or leftover brisket lying around and want to throw them into this, it's good enough that it's worth dressing up for a meal and cheap enough that you won't be mad about it. Personally, I'll be keeping a couple of these on my shelf for when I'm feeling like some pho without having to go out or order delivery. This formerly great Vietnamese restaurant that was closest to my house went to absolute shit with their quality before the pandemic, and then ended up mercifully closing last year, and so this is a really tasty, easy option for me right now. Instant pho generally gets a bad rap on the internet, but I was pleasantly surprised by this. If you can recommend any other instant pho noodles, I would love to hear about it in the comments. Or hey, if there are some that you think we should all stay away from, let me know that too. I hope you'll all give this a try and tell me what you think, and I hope to see you in the next video for the review of the chicken flavor. Please remember to like this video and subscribe to continue on this noodle journey with me.